Growing up on a farm, I realized that if I wanted to see more of the world than a trip to the local tractor parts supply store, I would have to join the military. Although we weren't dirt poor, we weren't lower middle class either. My mother made my clothes, and we never took vacations. Manually loading and stacking bales of hay, straw, and alfalfa occupied most of my day from age 7 onward. When I graduated high school, against our parents' wishes, my best friend and I enlisted and spent the next 4 years in the Marines. During our service, we were stationed at 2 bases stateside, but ended up being deployed to South Korea and Japan. Due to cultural differences, we were encouraged to spend most of our leave time at specific American-friendly bars and entertainment spots. My friend Hal and I visited as many tourist attractions as possible, knowing we'd never have another opportunity to see this part of the world again. I spent half of my money enjoying the local culture and tried to send the other half back home to help out. Our time in country wasn't particularly remarkable. We spent most of our time on sentry duty. While we didn't completely avoid some of the temptations that arose, I took precautions to stay safe and avoided any health issues. We engaged in various activities and competitions often organized by fellow Marines. By the time we were honorably discharged, everyone started calling me Army, even though my name is Calvin Boss. When we returned home, Hal continued calling me Army, and the nickname stuck. The locals picked up on it, misunderstanding it as a slight to my service in the Marines, but I never corrected them. In the service, I learned to ignore slights, and it took a lot to get me angry. Our farming town, while not that small, didn't offer many employment opportunities outside of farming or construction for anyone with less than a college education. Of course, we had the typical grocery and dry goods stores, but we weren't large enough to attract big box stores. Surprisingly, we had 2 banks and several fast food places. I didn't want to live far from my parents. While they weren't that old, I wanted to be around to help them when needed. Of course, they wanted me to seek a better life. Having seen the world, I wanted to settle down. Since I grew up in farming, I decided to go into construction. I worked as a laborer, hauling and unloading everything from bricks, blocks, sheetrock, trusses, and of course stud lumber. I was sent to deliver and hand stack loads in places where forklifts couldn't reach. No stranger to hard work, I could go all day without tiring. Sure, I'd fade by the end of the day, but after a shower, I had all the energy in the world to go out and enjoy time with friends. When I first met Stacy at Higgins' restaurant, it was love at first sight. She was the most attractive woman I'd ever seen, and I must have asked her out 30 times before she finally agreed. I think she did it just to get me to stop asking. We hit it off famously, getting along like 2 peas in a pod. 2 more compatible people were hard to imagine. She had it all: looks, personality, humor, and she knew how to charm everyone around her. After 9 months of steady dating, I popped the question, and we were married 6 months later. Stacy and I were both 24 and couldn't be happier. She had grown up in a neighboring town, so we had roots in the area. We talked about starting a family, but agreed we needed to save up enough money to afford a child without putting too much strain on our limited incomes. My dad advised me to earn a bigger paycheck before having kids and pushed me to look for better job opportunities. He was right. We couldn't really afford kids. By the time we paid our apartment rent and covered our monthly expenses, we were nearly tapped out. We lived paycheck to paycheck, and after 2 years of marriage, we barely had enough in the bank to buy a couple of cheap tires for my car. Somerville, the 3rd largest city in our state, was 40 miles away from our Belford hometown. Kensington, a growing suburban community where many Somerville commuters lived, was located just 22 miles away from Belford. It was always adding new businesses to serve the growing needs of its residents. One such establishment was Stokes Fitness Palace, a co-ed gym that catered to the fitness of both men and women. Army, you aren't going to believe the exciting news I heard today, Stacy announced one afternoon. Oh, are they having another sale at the dollar store? I joked. No, silly. My friend Brenda had lunch at the restaurant today, and she told me about a new fitness gym opening over in Kensington. They're interviewing potential hires for the next week or so. She was told the starting pay for new recruits. Honey, if they hire me, I'll be making about 30% more than what I bring home in wages and tips from the restaurant. I could make close to what you bring home. Isn't that wonderful? She declared. We can start setting money aside for our family. I want us to finally have that baby we've planned for so long. I hear what you're saying, but what do you know about fitness and gyms? Wouldn't you need some kind of degree or something? I don't know what their requirements are for any of these positions, and I'll never know unless I go for an interview. Connie said she'd come in early and cover for me, so I can go to Stokes Fitness Palace for an interview, and I'll stay over a couple of hours in the evening to cover for her. Brenda said she heard that they take walk-ins, no appointments necessary. Honey, I don't suppose it would hurt to find out what kind of job opportunities they're offering, and there aren't many other prospects here in Belford. If you were to get the job, you'd have to commute the distance every workday. I wouldn't get my hopes up, but sure, give it a try. After work the next day, Stacy came home excited. You won't believe this, Army, but they offered me a job at Stokes Fitness Palace in Kensington just like that. Yes, they're going to start me at 25% more than I'm making now, and after 2 performance evaluations, they'll up it to 30% more, just as Brenda said. That almost sounds too good to be true. What is it exactly that you'll be doing for them, Stacy? That's the best part, Army. They have their own in-house, on-the-job training program. They'll teach me about all of their machines and strength training equipment. Once I'm up to speed, they'll make me a floor manager. I'll help anyone who's inexperienced with the equipment. They said that over time, if I apply myself, I could become a trainer, which could add another 20% to my salary. Isn't that wonderful? Stacy excitedly declared. When do they want you to start? I told them I need to give at least 1 week's notice at the restaurant. I don't want to leave them in a bind. They said that would be fine with them. Are you still okay with this, Army? It looks like we'll be able to start setting more money aside now to grow our family. As soon as we can afford it, I want to have your baby, honey. Nothing would please me more, I assured her. At first, Stacy was conservatively attired at her new job, conventional pants with colorful button-up tops. After a month, she purchased 5 pairs of yoga pants with matching halter tops. She said her attire needed to reflect the gym atmosphere, and I could understand that. 3 months later, she began wearing more form-fitting clothes. I didn't particularly like it, but I tried to be supportive. She just brushed off my concerns, claiming I was being overprotective, and showed me pictures taken at the gym proving that all the other women were dressing similarly. She even started receiving cash tips from some of the clients she helped. To calm my worries, I took off work early one day and dropped by Stokes Fitness Palace unannounced. I watched her for a couple of minutes before she noticed me and rushed over to greet me. Bubby, what are you doing here? She enthusiastically asked. I just wanted to see where my wife works. This is a very nice facility, I replied. I'm so glad you stopped by, Army. Come on, let me introduce you to my supervisor, she insisted. She walked me over to a strong man named Gerald. This is my husband, Calvin Boss, but everybody calls him Army. Army, this is Gerald Jenkins, but everyone calls him Goliath for obvious reasons. As we shook hands, Goliath tried to give me a firm grip, attempting to intimidate me without being too obvious. He was built like a bodybuilder, muscular and strong. He was about 6 feet 2 inches, 188 centimeters, to my 5 feet 9 inches, 175 centimeters, and I estimated his weight to be at least 245 pounds, 111 kilograms, of solid muscle. He was definitely a perfect advertisement for the fitness center. We both smiled warmly for Stacy's sake, and someone called them away, so Stacy gave me a tour and explained much of their operations. I did see 2 other female coworkers who were dressed similarly to her, and was glad I stopped by. It eased my mind considerably. Not long after that encounter, Stacy began coming home with a lot more energy. We were spending more time together, and she attributed her newfound energy to her workouts and healthier eating habits, which she encouraged me to try as well. She lost some weight and gained muscle, and I was supportive of her new enthusiasm, which led to us spending more active time together. She never mentioned any of the guys she worked with, not even Goliath, which I took as a positive sign. Then came the day that changed everything. Friday night, Stacy brought up a change in her schedule. Honey, I know I don't usually work weekends, but they're having a big promotion at the gym tomorrow, and they need all hands on deck. There's a very special event taking place at 7 p.m. It's not open to the general public, but they want all spouses to be there. I want to show you off to everyone as my husband. Will you make it a special point to be there, please? She asked with a playful look. What kind of promotion? I asked, feeling unsure. Don't worry, they're not going to try to sign you up for anything, I promise. It's just a special event. Could be an award, maybe, she said evasively. After this event, we may be able to start growing our family sooner rather than later. You just have to come to find out. I can't say any more right now. I agreed to go, thinking I'd see what the big deal was. That night, we both spent time together, and by the time I woke up the next morning, she was already gone. I called my buddy Hal and spent a chunk of the day helping him work on his car. He was always doing something to improve it, and we talked about the mysterious event Stacy mentioned. I shared my concerns with him, telling him that while I couldn't quite put my finger on it, something felt off. Hey, man, Hal began. Why don't I come with you tonight, just in case you have any concerns? And come on in the house, and let me show you the gadget I won in a poker game a couple of weeks ago. It's a compact ink pen voice recorder. It records up to 70 hours of audio on a single charge, and it has a built-in USB adapter to download the recordings. A twist on the top turns it on, and it writes perfectly as a pen, so no one will know. A buddy of mine who lost it to me bought it to record conversations for some reason. I've tested it, and it picks up clear audio from about 40 feet away. Wow, this is like a spy gadget, I said. I don't think it will be needed, but it won't hurt to have it on me, just in case, I added. Thanks, Hal. It was a cool spring evening, so I wore my light windbreaker with zipper pockets. I put the pen in an inside breast pocket. Hal and I showed up at Stokes Fitness Palace a few minutes before 7. I made sure to twist the top of the pen as I had practiced earlier. A burly man came to the door and asked for ID. I showed him my driver's license, and he nodded his approval. When Hal tried to enter with me, the guy stopped him and said, "Sorry, bud, this is a closed event, and you're not invited. Only Mr. Bosque." I looked the guy in the eye and said, "No problem. Come on, Hal, let's go. If he can't get in, then I won't go either. Hey, bud, be sure and tell Stacy boss that her husband tried to get in." "Wait, sir, you're a VIP guest," the man called after us. "All right, we'll let your friend in, but I need to collect your cell phones before you enter. As I said, this is a private event, and no recordings or photos are allowed." We reluctantly handed him our phones, and he slid them in individual manila envelopes, marking them with our names. "They'll be returned to you upon leaving the premises. For your security and protection, these envelopes will remain sealed until they're returned." He placed our phones in one of several bins containing similar envelopes and locked the door behind us. As we walked into the main gym, we saw 2 large tables with peg handles on top in the center of the gym, with a group of men standing around working out or warming up for something. Our escort asked us to wait in the gym while he conducted me to an office where Stacy was waiting. I nodded to Hal that I was okay, and he relaxed, wandering around the gym. We entered an office, and the door closed behind us. I saw Gerald Goliath Jenkins seated at a table across from me. Stacy was at his side, wearing a dark robe of some kind. 5 other men suddenly appeared from one side, as if they'd been waiting for my arrival. "Hey, Stacy, what's going on? Why are you in a robe and not your regular clothes?" I asked. Stacy looked nervously over at Goliath, and he nodded at her before commanding, "Show him." Stacy, almost shaking, asked, "Do you swear he won't remember anything?" "Not a single thing." "I swear it on my life," Goliath replied. Stacy removed her robe, revealing a very minimal outfit. There was barely any fabric, and I immediately became confused and upset. "Stacy," I asked, "tell me what's going on. Why are you dressed like this in front of all these men? I don't see any other women around. Is this some kind of joke? Have you been cheating on me?" I asked, feeling both hurt and angry. "Army, it's not what you think. Well, it kind of is, but it's not really like that," Stacy said, her voice shaky. "Honey, this is for us. After tonight, we'll finally have enough money to start our family. We won't have to wait any longer to begin having children. This is all for us." "What are you talking about, Stacy?" I replied, still in disbelief. I'm not comfortable with this. Put your clothes back on, and let's leave right now. As I reached to take her hand, Goliath stood up and moved in front of her. I'm afraid I can't allow that. Stacy is here for the night. You'll get her back safe tomorrow, but tonight she stays with me, and there's nothing you can do about it, he said with authority. That's not happening, I replied, moving forward. But before I could get any closer, 5 men stepped in, surrounding me and telling me to back off. Don't hurt him, Stacy shouted. If anything happens to him, the deal is off. Goliath nodded at her words and motioned for the men to be cautious with me. I'll explain things in a minute, but first I need these guys to step back. If they don't, I might lose control and things could get ugly. I warned him, my voice steady but firm. I hope you're prepared for the consequences. Stacy, can you live with that? Stacy gasped, but she fell silent when Goliath waved for the men to back off. They stepped aside. I was never in the army, I continued. I served in the Marines. They call me Army for fun. Why? Goliath asked with a smirk. Did they think you weren't good enough for the Marines? Somebody better explain what's going on here, or I'm going to get really upset, I said, my patience wearing thin. All right, Goliath said. Here's the deal. I've been interested in Stacy for a while. We spent time together, but she never gave in. I came up with an idea to help her out. She could participate in an arm wrestling contest, and if it gained enough interest, we could make it worth her while. Stacy's eyes widened as she listened to Goliath's explanation, and I felt a surge of frustration building inside me. Don't think for a second that I'm letting this happen, I said, my hands clenched into fists. Goliath continued. I thought I could get her involved by offering a large sum of money, and the idea grew from there. But she was hesitant. She didn't like the idea of competition, so I suggested you could participate too, and if you won, you wouldn't have to worry about her involvement. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. You can't manipulate her like this. She loves you, I said to Stacy. I know, Goliath said, lowering his voice. But you need to understand I wasn't forcing her into anything. The event turned out to be a double elimination arm wrestling tournament. Each participant had paid an entry fee and signed the necessary waivers. The competition was designed to be fair and exciting, with every contestant having the chance to prove their strength and skill. The atmosphere was full of anticipation as the competitors lined up. There were 2 arm wrestling tables set up, each with hand pegs to help give the contestants more leverage. The audience was cheering, and the energy in the room was high as the matches began. The event organizers made sure everything was fair and transparent. 2 certified referees, Mr. Justin Albright and Mr. Kevin Saunders, were there to officiate, ensuring that the rules were followed and that each match was conducted properly. Before the competition started, the host, Stacy, wished the competitors good luck. She thanked them for their participation and emphasized that the event was about showcasing skill, sportsmanship, and mutual respect. I know it's going to be an exciting evening, and I wish everyone the best of luck, Stacy said, encouraging the participants. Let's make this a memorable event, not just for the winner, but for all of us. The competition went on, with each match being fair and exciting. The crowd cheered for every participant, and the atmosphere remained positive and friendly. It was clear that everyone was there to compete with honor and integrity, and no one was willing to let the contest become anything less than a celebration of strength and camaraderie. You descended the stairs, and over the next 30 minutes, the contestants were narrowed down to the semi-finalists. Everyone exchanged compliments and supported each other before their turn at the table. Ultimately, it was Goliath against another heavily muscled contestant in the semi-final match. Goliath easily won, just as he had predicted, leaving me as the only one left to face him in the final. The referees informed Goliath that he could take 15 minutes to rest before facing Maine. He waved them off, claiming that I posed no threat to him and that he didn't need any recovery time. I shrugged off my jacket and tied it tightly around my waist to avoid losing it. I was escorted to the table for the final match, where the referee stood ready to officiate the final event of the night. As I stood across from this towering man, it was clear that no one in the room expected me to come out on top. They were smirking, knowing that Stacy would be Goliath's reward, and I overheard a few of them saying they envied him for the night ahead with her. I stepped up to the table, and the room gradually quieted. I spoke. "Where's the $40,000 prize money? I want to see it." "Why do you want to see it, little man? You don't stand a chance of winning," Goliath bragged. "Maybe so," I replied, "but everyone here has been preparing for their match. I just want to make sure the money is where it should be, win or lose. That doesn't break any rules, right?" The room burst into laughter. I smiled. "I just want to make sure I get it if I win." Goliath nodded at one of his men, who disappeared into the office to retrieve the locked box with the cash. He returned and opened it, allowing me to see it. "Shall we quickly count it to make sure everything is in order?" I asked. The referee, Justin Albright, picked up the stack of bills, quickly sorted them, and confirmed the total, $40,000. "If you don't mind, I'd like you to hold on to it until the final match is over so it can be awarded immediately," I added. "And please ensure my safety as well. I'm concerned that whether I win or lose, I might not be allowed to leave." Justin looked to Goliath, who said, "Go ahead, Mr. Albright. We trust you completely." The referee kept the thick stack of bills close to his body for security. Goliath smirked. "You will be allowed to leave, of course. Nobody here will stop you." His expression said otherwise. I suspected that at least 2 or 3 of his men had been sent outside to keep watch on me. I made sure to clarify. "I'm only here for the money. I have no interest in anything else. Even if I win, I'm not looking to stick around. Stacy may be skilled, but who would want to live with someone like her?" Stacy shot me a glare, and then she spoke. "Let's get this over with. I'm eager to be with him." She walked over to Goliath, and they shared a passionate kiss. I had never felt so enraged and humiliated in my life. An icy cold sensation swept over me. After he had finished speaking to Stacy, she moved toward me, likely trying to inspire me in the same way, but I stopped her in her tracks. In a clear voice, I said, "Don't ever touch me again, Stacy. You heard what I said earlier. I don't want someone with no morals. Maybe tomorrow I won't remember anything that happened tonight because I'll either be dead or beaten by your friends, but I hope you never forget what I'm about to say. You may be worth $20,000 for a night, but that doesn't make you any less of a person. You're a cheat, and if I had my way, I would divorce you right here and now. Get behind me so I don't have to look at you. Just the sight of you makes me sick." Stacy started sobbing loudly at my harsh words. I could hear gasps from the crowd, and both referees scowled. I couldn't tell whether they were upset about my manners or whether they realized something more was going on. I hoped they understood my participation was forced. Part of me wanted to call the police and let Goliath follow through with whatever plan he had to silence me in front of more than 40 witnesses, but I knew I couldn't do that yet. As Stacy complied and moved behind me, Goliath defended her. "Who do you think you are? You can't talk to her like that," he shouted. "She's been my wife for years, but if I can correct that mistake, I'll make sure she's not my wife much longer. She sure won't be having my children," I replied. He sneered at me. I had a sudden thought as the picture became clearer. "Enough of the talk," I said. "Put your arm here, and I'll show you where you stand." The crowd cheered for Goliath, knowing that he would easily win. With no other choice, I placed my relatively small arm on the table against the force of his muscles. We locked hands tightly, making sure there were no tricks or slips. Referee Kevin Saunders went over the rules one last time before signaling the start of the match. I heard Stacy behind me telling Goliath not to hurt me. If it were up to him, I knew he would have overpowered me, but I wasn't sure if she meant killing me, as I had warned others, or if she simply wanted to ensure I was subdued during the match. Regardless, I was focused. I put all my strength into resisting, but it felt like pushing against steel. My hand didn't budge. Goliath's friend called out, 30 seconds, and the time seemed to drag on. Then Goliath smirked. "I'm going to show you what real strength is, little man," he said, pressing my hand down with ease. My wrist trembled in his grip as I fought against it, but it wasn't enough. Slowly, my hand hit the padded bar, and the referee called the match in Goliath's favor. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. I took a moment to step away from the table, taking deep breaths and shaking off the loss. Best 2 out of 3. I reminded everyone as I immediately placed my arm back on the table. Goliath laughed in my face. You obviously don't know anything about muscles, he said. All the deep breathing in the world won't save you. By the time I'm finished, you'll regret even trying. Once again, the room cheered, and his words only fueled my anger. I tried to push it aside and focus. Kevin gave instructions once again and signaled for us to begin. Goliath had a confident grin on his face, determined to secure the victory. I pressed against him with all my strength, using every ounce of energy to gain leverage. After about 10 seconds, I could feel him beginning to press down, trying to claim the final victory. My hand shook violently, each tremor fueled by adrenaline. Goliath had forced my arm down about a quarter of the way when I felt something shift. It was a strange sensation, like he had reached his limit. My arm stopped shaking and locked in place solidly, resisting him. I grunted, pushing with everything I had, breathing heavily, feeling the effort like a runner near the end of a marathon. Then it happened. His hand began to give way. The crowd fell silent as they watched in disbelief. My stamina continued to press him down, and it became clear that Goliath was weakening against my endurance. With each passing second, he struggled more. When the referee slapped the table signaling the pin, the room was still. The astonishment was palpable. Goliath jumped back from the table in disbelief. No, he shouted. There's no way he beat me. That was just a fluke. You're going down, boy. I'm going to squash you like a bug. He tossed his jacket aside and ripped his t-shirt off, his muscles gleaming in the light as his intense physique became the envy of everyone in the room. He drew his arms back like a powerful beast and growled in frustration at the loss. His energy was spent, but I didn't let it distract me. I had seen this kind of display before. As he slammed his elbow on the table, calling for the final match, I focused on preparing myself. One of us would suffer another loss, and he was determined it wouldn't be him. I ignored his theatrics and took a deep breath, steadying myself before the next challenge. Kevin signaled for the match to start. I knew that Goliath's anger would make him give everything in the first push. With a furious roar, he surged forward, shoving my arm down with all his might. My wrist was just an inch from being pinned, and my hand trembled against his massive strength, but I held my ground. From behind me, Stacy's voice called out, "Come on, Goliath. Show him who the real man is. Finish him." The crowd erupted at her boldness, but her words had an unintended effect on me. A new surge of adrenaline flooded my body, and with steady breathing, I groaned as I pushed back. The impasse we had been at for nearly 45 seconds began to break. Slowly, my arm moved in the opposite direction, gaining momentum. I felt his grip weaken, and with relentless pressure, I forced his wrist down. His efforts to twist and gain more leverage failed. With everything I had left, I pushed his arm toward the padded mat. Kevin called the match in my favor, and the crowd was stunned. I'd done it, I thought, my heart racing. I had defeated Goliath twice out of 3 matches. It was over. Silence filled the room as Goliath asked in astonishment, "How? How did you do that? I've never lost to anyone as small as you." "I need to know," he pleaded. "I'll answer your question if you give me your word on 2 conditions," I offered. "Name it," he conceded. "First, I want the winnings handed over before I give my answer, the entire 40 grand. Secondly, I want to leave here under my own power after my explanation, with no one trying to stop me. Do I have your word?" I asked. Goliath nodded in agreement. "Go ahead and hand over the money, Justin." I untied my windbreaker and put it on. Justin handed me the cash, which I quickly zipped into the pockets of my windbreaker. "I want everyone here to know that Mr. Boss has won this contest fair and square," Goliath announced. "Whether we like it or not, he is not to be touched after he provides his explanation. He will be free to leave here unhampered." Stacy just stood there, shocked into silence. I knew that Goliath was lying. Only one of his goons was nearby, and I suspected the rest were already waiting outside. But for now, I felt reassured, so I decided to share my story. All my life, I've either worked on a farm or in construction. I've dealt with heavy loads day in and day out. I may not have the big, well-defined muscles that many others here have, But what muscles I have are built for endurance and stamina, not just strength. When I joined the Marines, I was stationed for a couple of years with the 12th Marine Regiment at Camp Hansen, Okinawa, Japan, and later at Camp Majuk, a Marine Corps installation in South Korea. We had a lot of downtime, but we still had to stay close to base. We got inventive in finding ways to pass the time, and arm wrestling became a popular activity to release stress and boredom. I paused for a moment, thinking back. We even set up weight classes, and the best in each weight class went up against the best from heavier classes. After a year of arm wrestling, I had never lost a match. One of the base doctors gave me a special examination to figure out why I was winning against opponents nearly twice my size. He found that my arms were mainly powered by aerobic, slow twitch muscles. People like you who lift heavy weights for short bursts develop fast twitch muscles, which give great bursts of energy for a short time. My arms may not be as strong as many others, but I have endurance. My arm can go all day long as I keep breathing and provide the oxygen they need. I looked around the room, my eyes scanning the crowd. The way I beat you wasn't by strength, but by outlasting you. As your anaerobic muscles ran out of fuel, mine kept going. Even though I was in the Marines, they nicknamed me Army for two reasons. Army means strong, and I gained a reputation for my arm wrestling abilities. So there you have it. I'm giving you my explanation. Now I'll take my leave and let you get on with whatever else you need to do tonight. I looked around for my cell phone. Someone handed me an envelope, and I tore it open while scanning the faces around me. They all seemed friendly enough. Quietly, I began walking toward the door. No one moved or spoke a word. They were still in shock. Then Stacy called out to me, "Honey, this is wonderful. Hold on, and I'll drive us home. We do need to talk." I heard someone else murmur, "There's not enough talking in the world to make up for what she's done." "I'll wait outside," I said. "Go put some clothes on before we go home." She loudly asked me to come with her, doing her best to get me to follow her back to the office, but I suspected that was a trap. One of the goons would be there ready to subdue me. "No, I need some fresh air. I'll be out front. We can talk there or in the car," she said, taking my remark as a sign that I was willing to talk. However, I intended it as nothing more than a delaying tactic to buy myself time to escape. She turned to the office to change back into her regular clothes while I made my way quickly to the front door, head on a swivel. "Marine," I reminded myself, scanning the area outside. Seeing no one in the immediate vicinity, I rushed out to look for Hal. When he saw me emerge, he flashed his lights. I knew he wouldn't leave me stranded. He was clearly keeping watch, like a Marine on sentry duty. As I hurried over to his car, I saw three men coming from behind an SUV, running in my direction. Marines are known for their physical fitness training, and I was quick to put some distance between us. I jumped into Hal's car, and he decided not to wait around. With a screech of tires, he peeled away from the scene, leaving the three men behind. I had miraculously made my escape, my memories of the night still intact. "I swear I didn't leave you in there alone, Army," Hal quickly informed me as I got into the car. A few big guys forced me out the door and tossed my cell phone on the ground. They said it was a closed event, and I wasn't invited, so I waited for you. Actually, I was getting close to calling the police, but no one else came out, so I figured you were still safe. From the looks of those guys, it didn't seem like a friendly situation. "So what's the story, and where do you want me to take you?" "Take me to my place," I urged. Then I proceeded to explain all the events of the night. Hal was shocked beyond measure. He couldn't believe Stacy would betray me the way she had, especially with the prohibited substances angle. It seemed too extreme for her. He just shook his head, murmuring, "She's just cheating." "Unbelievable. What do you want me to do?" Hal asked as he pulled up in front of my place. "How about parking behind my building? Stacy will probably show up soon. If she comes alone, I'll talk to her while I pack. If she brings anyone with her, I'll slip out the back and head to your place." "Of course you can stay at my place for as long as you need," Hal said. "You don't even need to ask. But just so you know, all I have is a spare couch in my small apartment." "The couch will be perfect. Thanks," I replied. "If Stacy comes alone before I leave, I'll confront her tonight and make my intentions clear. If she brings any of the thugs with her, I'll make a quick escape with you." Wait, I have a better idea, I said, pulling the cash out of my pocket and stuffing it into an empty fast food bag Hal had left on the floor of his car. We put the bag under the spare tire in his trunk. I may need backup. You got your weapon? Stupid question, Hal muttered, pulling his pistol from the console. He slipped it inside his waistband and followed me inside. I had 2 suitcases packed and was zipping up the second one when we heard the front door unlock. Hal quickly hid in the closet. Stacy ran inside, visibly relieved. Thank God you're here, she exclaimed. I was worried you'd be gone by the time I arrived. I'm so sorry. We need to talk. Are you here alone, or are the 5 men you were with earlier still around? I asked, my voice firm. No one else is coming, Army, she replied, her voice softer now. It's just you and me. I want to apologize for my behavior earlier tonight. I got caught up in the excitement of it all. I was supposed to rile them up, and I guess I went too far. I smiled, but it was a wry smile. Why rile them up? They already paid their money. It's not like you were going to get more from them. I suspected that I knew the intent behind the advertising, for future events, opportunities designed to get her attention, much like that video of her. I wondered if it showed her face. Goliath said he wanted to make sure the guys were focused on me, that I would be a distraction, Stacy explained. She seemed to believe it, but I had my doubts. Those strong-armed wrestlers wouldn't be distracted by anything when it came time to compete. I hoped deep down that you'd win, but I had to navigate both sides of the situation. We needed to secure enough money to start our family, and you were amazing. You stood your ground, showed them your strength, and proved everyone wrong. You saved me from a night that could have gone completely off track. Now, with the entire $40,000, we can start fresh, and I'm so grateful to be by your side. Stacy, however, seemed to be playing a different game. She tried to act as if she wasn't interested in Goliath, but I could see through it. I remembered the things she said to him, cheering him on, urging him to show me who was in control. She was caught in a moment, but I wasn't fooled. Still, I kept playing along because I wanted to make sure we got the money we needed. But the truth is, I couldn't ignore what had happened. You might have thought I didn't notice, but I heard what you said. Your actions, your words, they didn't match your vows. You let others take liberties that shouldn't have been allowed. You may try to convince me otherwise, but I can't ignore the truth anymore. You were unfaithful to me, and the only reason you aren't with someone else right now is that the match didn't go in their favor. I can never trust you again. I don't see a future for us, and I won't stay in a relationship built on lies and betrayal. Stacy started to cry, pleading with me to reconsider. She said she was just angry, but I was clear with her. I couldn't see a future together anymore. Before I could say anything more, there was a knock at the door. Go see who it is, she suggested, though I wasn't interested in any distractions. It's fine, I said. I'll go check. She grabbed my phone on the way out, probably thinking she had everything under control. That I whispered to myself, make sure you stay safe. With that, I readied myself, prepared to face whatever came next. I was ready to defend myself if necessary. Here he is, boys, Stacy said as she let the 5 men and Goliath into the room. I have his cell phone, so I know he's not recording anything. I had already anticipated this moment. The moment I heard Stacy unlocking the door, I discreetly turned on the recording function of Hal's pen. I had captured everything she'd said, and she couldn't call for help now. We have him now, she said. Remember, you promised not to hurt him too much. Just hold him down. Make sure he drinks the solution, and give him a little beating to make it look like a mugging. Get out of my house, all of you, I shouted. I'm sorry, honey, Stacy replied, but this is for the best. You need your memory erased. I can't have you remembering what happened tonight, or leaving me with nothing. It'll be easier if you just drink the stuff Ralph made and go to sleep. You'll wake up, and everything will seem normal, happily married, and we'll have $20,000. I promised Goliath the other $20,000 if he helped me make you forget, even though you won tonight. But if you don't, you're going to be hurt, she added. You planned this, didn't you? She nodded, admitting they had only just made the plan on their way here. Well, you probably didn't plan on this, I said, noticing how they were beginning to spread out in the room, trying to block my escape. I reached into my waistband and pulled out my Glock 17. Everybody stay where you are, I commanded. I'd hate to have to use this, but if I pull the trigger, I'm going to hit 3 of you. The others can decide if they want to hold pressure on the wounds until the ambulance arrives. They froze, clearly not expecting me to be armed. You won't shoot, Goliath sneered. You might get 1 or 2 of us, but the others would get you. You want to bet? I asked with a slight smile. I was a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And one thing the Marines teach you beyond physical fitness is small arms combat. I'm an expert with a pistol. I could put a round in each of your bellies before you get anywhere near me. And yes, I'll shoot for the belly. I want you to hurt, not die. Now sit down. Why should we? One of the goons questioned. We still have a chance. You don't have any chance, I retorted. But I feel threatened by you standing there. I'd really hate to fire this thing indoors. You have no idea how loud it is. 1 shot, and our ears will be ringing. If you want to talk, sit down. Otherwise, I'll call the police. The choice is yours. They reluctantly sat down. I instructed them to move further back onto the sofa and chairs so they'd have to shift their weight to stand up, giving me the advantage if they tried anything. I positioned myself across from them, seated in a kitchen chair I had placed earlier, my pistol resting on my right thigh, my finger hovering just outside the trigger guard, ready if I needed to act. Sweetheart, Stacy said, give him the $20,000 and take the stuff. When you wake up tomorrow, we'll be the same, but $20,000 richer. I raised an eyebrow. And how are you going to explain the money to me? Easy, she replied. You won $40,000, and you gave me $20,000 to hold. You left the gym, but someone followed you and mugged you. The situation was tense, and it was clear that Goliath and the others had been planning something underhanded. Stacy looked uneasy as I spoke clearly, struggling to come to terms with what had been happening behind the scenes. I addressed the group, my voice steady. You all thought you could control the situation, but I see through your plans. You wanted to manipulate everything to your advantage, and it wasn't just about money or a contest. It was about control. Stacy, still sitting, seemed to grapple with the reality of the situation. Her face showed signs of doubt, her belief in the others starting to falter. But that's not how it was supposed to go, she muttered, shaking her head. I continued speaking directly to her. You were being led into a situation where you had no agency, no real choice. They promised you a reward, but at what cost? It was always about making you believe in something that wasn't true. I paused for a moment, allowing her words to settle in. And you, Goliath, I turned to him. You thought you could make everything go your way, but I won't let that happen. Goliath, looking frustrated, tried to brush it off, but his confidence was starting to crack. Stacy glanced at him, a mixture of confusion and realization in her eyes. The weight of the situation was sinking in. All of this was about manipulation. I didn't realize it was like that, she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. The tension in the room was palpable, but now the power had shifted. The game had changed, and the control they thought they had was slipping away. After winning the contest, I expected trouble. I was certain the group would be waiting for me outside, planning to corner me. They probably had a backup plan in case I returned to the office with you after you got dressed, so they could pressure me into complying once again. But they underestimated me. I had seen through their plan from the start. They thought they could manipulate you, and you were so eager to help them that you didn't realize the full extent of their intentions. I could sense it, their desire to take advantage of you, to make you feel like you had no choice but to go along with everything. When I finally confronted Goliath, he seemed caught off guard, trying to explain himself. You agreed to it, he said. We just wanted you to cooperate. I shook my head, not even bothered by his attempts to justify the scheme. No, I said firmly. You were trying to control the situation, and I won't let that happen. I turned to Stacy, who was sitting quietly, her face filled with confusion. You didn't realize what was really going on, did you? I asked. This whole thing was never about helping you or me. It was always about making sure they had something over both of us. But I see through it now. Stacy looked at me, a mix of regret and disbelief in her eyes. She had been caught up in the situation, believing promises that turned out to be lies. I didn't know. she whispered, her voice faltering. I thought I was just helping. I sighed, understanding her confusion. It's not your fault. They manipulated you, made you think it was your only option. But there was always another way. I won this contest, and I'm not letting them control me anymore, I said, turning to Goliath and the others who stood in silence, realizing their plan was falling apart. Goliath was visibly frustrated, and Stacy looked at him in shock, realizing how much she had been deceived. I stood there, calm but firm. I may not have a degree, but I'm not stupid, I said. I was trained to think critically in the Marines. You never know when your leader might fall, and you have to step up and take charge. Earlier tonight, I had observed Goliath and his associates. They were overconfident, assuming they could control the situation, but they didn't realize I had been paying attention. It wasn't just about the money. I knew that there was something bigger at play, something more personal. You think you can control everyone, I continued, addressing Goliath, but you can't. These guys might follow your lead now, but they each have their own motivations, and you can't always predict how people will act when they're on their own. Goliath's expression shifted from anger to frustration. You don't know what you're talking about, he muttered. I looked at Stacy. They lied to you. They got you to think this was all just about helping, but it was never about that. It was always about control. They wanted to manipulate you, to make you feel like you had no other choice but to comply. Stacy's face softened, her confusion turning into a mix of realization and regret. I thought I was doing the right thing, she whispered. I didn't see it. I took a deep breath. It's not your fault. They're the ones who manipulated the situation. But now we can do something about it. I've already won the contest, and I'm not letting them control us any longer. Goliath's eyes narrowed, but he seemed to understand the shift in power. You think you've won? He asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. I don't think it, I said, standing tall. I know it. The game is over, and I'm walking away from this, with or without you. Goliath let Stacy go, and she glared at him, clearly both scared and angry now. Not only was she afraid of him, but she was also upset about how his plan could affect her in the future. Yes, they would be caught with prohibited substances and a video recorder when the police searched their car, but they had a plan. They would explain that the video equipment in their car was being used to record the arm wrestling event, which they had indeed recorded. Of course, if things had gone wrong, they would have to carefully edit the footage. I always have prohibited substances and other medications with me, he said. I'm a veterinarian, and my partner and I regularly make house calls, so we keep medical supplies in our cars. We were just recording the event, that's all, he added, nodding toward the man next to him. Stacy's not going to risk going back to the gym now that she knows what we were planning, but she can't make any complaints. There's no proof of what we intended, but there's plenty of evidence that could put her in a difficult position. Goliath continued, his voice tense. I just bought a new truck, and I need the money. You lost the competition, and that was the only way to explain how I could get that amount. You're right. The other share is barely enough to make it worth the risks, the man next to him said. We didn't want to hurt her, but we could have set up more events like this with her as the prize. However, her participation would have been limited, and we would have kept the risks low. We could have offered her compensation and made things easier for her if she agreed. He continued. But in the end, it all depends on what she chooses. We understood that she might change her mind, and we were prepared for that possibility. The man next to him then suggested a solution. You both can just move forward. We can help you forget this whole situation if you're willing to let it go. Stacy won't be working at the gym anymore, and maybe this whole experience will help her reconsider her views on things. He smiled and said, The problem with this plan is that you might decide to go to the hospital for an examination. You need to come up with a story to make it believable, but you'd be married, which is a plus. You love her, you trust her, and of course, your loving wife would never lie to you. He smiled, and I noticed the other men chuckling a bit. He continued, I started wondering if there might be a way to get the money back from Stacy somehow. I suddenly realized part of his plan, but I decided to let him keep talking. You'll have to take the medication tonight, in the next few hours, to make sure it wipes out enough of your memory. You'll remember that you planned to go to the gym, but not what actually happened there. That would leave a blank space for Stacy to fill in. The problem, as I saw it, was Stacy. I could just divorce her and walk away. That would probably be the smartest option, I said aloud. Stacy immediately started to plead. Well, we just talked about how we could fix things, and I promised I wouldn't make any more mistakes like this, she said. I thought for a moment. The problem was that this plan could lead to even more complications, especially if someone tried to threaten her or interfere with our marriage. We need to make sure Stacy is safe, I said, and I want all of you to promise that you won't interfere with my life or Stacy's life anymore. Each of the men agreed that they would not bother me or Stacy in the future. At that moment, I felt some relief, though something in her tone still seemed tense. Stacy continued, "We'll need to make it look like something unexpected happened. You could get a small injury, and I can help you explain it so that no one suspects anything is wrong." I thought about it. This could work if we played it right. We need to come up with a believable story, I said. Stacy nodded confidently. Goliath, while outlining her plans, told me that she was really looking forward to busting my balls, just like she had looked forward to breaking my heart earlier. It would have been fine if I had no memory of it all, as far as she was concerned. Now that we had all this honesty, I had a couple more questions before I made my decision to either let you go or let Stacy wipe my memory. Stacy and Goliath both nodded vigorously. You both agreed that you never actually had sex, and you were being very candid since you knew you'd be wiping my memory. Goliath said Stacy had requested I'd be given a shot, however small, to win the pot. She didn't think I had a snowball's chance in hell of doing it, so it almost seemed like a wasted gesture. My question is this. Did you intend to force me to watch you having sex before you drugged me? You made it sound both ways a few times. Once, you said your boys would drug me elsewhere. I suspected the answer, but knew it for sure before either of you opened your mouths. Yes, Goliath said. We both thought it would excite you to make you watch. You wouldn't remember anyway, but Stacy wanted the memory of having all that power over you. The word power stuck in my mind when I considered how much she seemed to look forward to kicking my nuts after I passed out. Or maybe she'd do it while I was still awake, just to hear me scream, and then not remember it later. I didn't put anything past the witch at this point. Not just me, Stacy protested, for some reason once again not realizing what she was saying. You were the one who said it would be hot if Army cried watching a better man have me like he never had. Okay, one other issue. You guys said she gave you all BJs this afternoon to pay you for your help. Tell me about that, I said in a neutral tone. One of them spoke up. Well, it was pretty simple. We told her we had to make sure she was totally on board with what was happening and not suddenly be too inhibited to put on a real show. Also, since we couldn't compete and have a chance at her, we needed something to pay us. She agreed and did it. I nodded, acting like I didn't care. In reality, by that time, I was over being upset. I just wanted to satisfy my curiosity. Okay, so let's recap. Obviously, nobody wants me to start shooting, which, like I said, I will at the slightest provocation. You don't want me to call the cops. You pointed out the damage to my reputation, but forgot to mention having to answer to your wives. You got BJs, right? I want to hear from each of you who did it. All 5 of them admitted to what Stacy had done that afternoon. So, we need to let these guys go, Stacy said. Then we can take care of your memory, and we'll have a complete reset on our marriage. I promised never to be tempted again, though I could barely keep a straight face at her lie. She was remarkably naive, believing whatever was fed to her by seemingly anyone. Yeah, after you enjoy yourself stomping on my nuts, I said. Oh no, I won't enjoy it. I'll just do enough to make it look like a real mugging, she replied, contradicting her earlier statements. And you guys won't double back and try to get Stacy to give up the money or herself? I asked with a smile. Of course not, the veterinarian claimed. That would be stupid. Stacy knows what we planned and would never let us near her. Plus, she'd have your pistol, right guys? I heard a chorus of nos and hell numbers. Okay, I've made my decision, I said. I pulled the cell phone out of my pocket and, using my left hand, I raised the Glock slightly from where it had rested on my knee to remind them all that I would shoot if provoked. All 7 stiffened when they saw me pull out a second cell phone. You see, Stacy, these guys are not going to leave, Or rather, they won't go far, no matter what they say. They wouldn't want to waste all night before coming back. They'll give us just enough time for me to take the drugs, and maybe even stage the mugging. I guess one might even whisper in your ear to call them once I was drugged, so they'd know you'd taken care of things, and they were in the clear. Stacy looked shocked. And you'd be dumb enough to tell them I'd taken this stuff if I was dumb enough to actually swallow it. Then they'd tell you the rest of the plan. Their plan? I said. She asked me what that was. They already own you, I explained. They have enough blackmail material to make you their whore now. You just heard them describe how you performed oral sex. Do you seriously think they didn't video every second they could? Now, of course, they need more. You kept saying it wasn't cheating. They couldn't risk you sticking with that attitude and telling me they were trying to blackmail you by confessing you only blew them. Now that they, and you, of course, know my attitude, that's all they'll need. As soon as you tell them I drank the drugs, they'll come around, demand the money first, and then you'll be back to square one. You'll be their whore, and me oblivious. I offered with a grin. Of course, I could have pretended to have taken it, fake passing out, and waited for them to show up and make their demands. That would make my case against them easy, but you might have wanted to put my gun away, or one of these a-holes might have gotten ignorant and forced me to start shooting them. I looked at the shocked expression on the leader's face. Goliath began ranting about how no dumb Marine should have been able to outthink them. So where's the video? I asked. I know it has to be in one of your pockets. Stacy might be stupid and gullible, but even she might not take your word at face value anymore. You'd have to show her you really had blackmail material. It's in the camera in my case I left by the front door, the veterinarian said. I told him to get it. No way. As soon as I get up, you'll shoot me. He said that I assured him that unless I had a very good reason, I wasn't going to risk jail. I suggested he crawl, or I'll maybe ask Jerry to crawl to get it. Training that I ain't crawling for no man, Goliath stated emphatically. Finally, Stacy said she would get the case. She pulled the camera out, opened it, removed the SD card, and tossed it to me. Does this camera record to the SD card or the hard drive? I asked. I smiled when the owner said both. It's designed so you can pull the card and upload video, but it will also save to the drive. Do you want me to show you how to delete the file? He offered. Nope, I replied. I just wanted a copy of the witch cheating on me. What you have there is between you and her, I said to the shock of everyone in the room. Stacy wasn't too concerned with distributing her other videos, so why should I care about this one? Stacy has the camera in her hands. Maybe she wants to delete it, but I don't give a rat's ass. They can blackmail her. She whimpered pitifully. Only if you let them. I heard someone else murmur. There's not enough talking in the world to make up for what she's done. I reached for my phone. 911. What is the nature of your emergency? I gave my name and address and reported, I have 6 men whom my wife had invited to my home to attack and rob me, held at gunpoint. I'd like to have officers dispatched. I assured her an ambulance was not needed at this time, but might be if one of the men got ignorant and made a move in my direction. All 6 men glared at me. What the hell? We were ready to leave. You were even talking about fixing things with your wife. I gave you the camera. You could have deleted every bit of evidence. Would have no blackmail material left, the veterinarian said. Stacy was staring at me, shocked. My marriage is in the trash because of you a-holes, I said. So, I want to return the favor. You can explain to your wives why you got arrested and see if they buy your story. I cannot imagine they are all as gullible as mine. They all stared at me. I saw 3 of the guys shift in their seats. I brought the Glock up and aimed it at them, wiggling my trigger finger where they could see it, then put it firmly on the trigger. I would not advise it, I said. This trigger has been reworked. It's sensitive and takes just less than 2 pounds of pressure to fire. And Stacy, I told you several times I would never trust you again. You just seemed far too happy about stomping on my nuts to support the story of a mugging, I said, now grinning. Hal, will you come out here? Hal emerged from around the corner. Hal has been listening to every word since you guys arrived. It's his phone I hold in my hand. I still had an open line with 911, so I knew all of this was being recorded. I hope it picked up the guys talking. I knew the pen recorder would, but the 911 call would serve as backup. Whatever he heard, I'd say it would still be entered as a statement, and whether allowed in court as evidence or not, their wives might not like what was said. Now more than ever, I needed my pistol up and moving back and forth. Had it not been for that, I'd have been pounded into the carpet. Even with a pistol, a few of these guys looked like they were a hair's breadth from trying something. Al, would you step outside onto the steps and tell the police I'll put my gun down when you call back inside when the police arrive? They will take all of us into custody. You have not been a participant. Would you lock up and secure everything for me? Copy, I asked, looking at my windbreaker laying on the side table. I handed him the SD card. He confirmed, then, come down to the police station to help out and give evidence? He nodded. We heard sirens as multiple police cars approached. The 911 operator came back on. Officers are on location, she said. I told her my friend was on the doorstep, the door was unlocked, and I told her where I was sitting in the room. I do have my pistol in my offhand, held by the barrel. I knew the first officer through the door, and so did Hal, as it was his older brother, Bob, a police lieutenant. What is going on here, Army? First, put the weapon on the floor and step away. I did as instructed. I could tell his body cam was running. Well, it seems my wife has been cheating on me. Earlier today, she gave these 5 guys BJs and planned to have sex with this one. They threatened to wipe my memory with a big dose of prohibited substances and alcohol. When I thwarted their plans, they drove over from Kensington for a second chance at me. My wife, Stacy, let them in. She gave my cell phone to them, so I couldn't record anything. It's in that guy's shirt pocket, I said, pointing at Goliath. That should show evil intentions if nothing else. You might want to secure that phone. I'd hate for it to get lost. Preposterous. We drove Stacy over here when her husband left her in Kensington after he won an arm wrestling competition. She invited us to celebrate his win. The man is delusional. He thinks we are having sex with his wife and even told the contestants at the competition he feared for his life, the goon leader said. I suggested Bob take us all to the station to give our statements and make a public record. He quickly told me he knew what to do without my input. I grinned. Soon, all of us but Hal were in handcuffs and loaded into various police cruisers. Hal told Bob he'd come down to the station as soon as he locked up and secured everything. Our plan was for him to upload a copy of the recordings to the cloud and my computer. I suspected he'd make more copies than that. Once segregated from the others at the police station, I quickly explained what happened tonight and what I surmised they planned to do. I advised Bob to check them in and then take a look at the case left in my house for prohibited substances and a camera where you should find a video of a nude Stacy in the act. He offered me coffee and began to take the other statements. Army, these guys all tell the same story of you being a crazy scumbag. You entered in an arm wrestling competition, and when they came to your home at Stacy's invitation, you held them at gunpoint and began making wild accusations. One is a lawyer and says he will represent the others, but since he is also a suspect, he is not allowed to go back and forth and advise the others. They're all writing statements now. Do you have any proof? I can't open the files on that camera without a warrant, but I did impound it. I told him. Hal has an audio recording of their confessions and is making copies. That recording changed things immediately. As soon as Stacy heard of its existence, she began to bawl and change her story, claiming she was seduced into cheating and that the guys were going to blackmail her into being their sex partner. An officer accompanied Hal and me back to my house. With my permission, they didn't need a warrant. They secured the small case one of the goons had left inside the front door when they arrived. In addition to the camera Stacy had removed earlier, there were 2 bottles of liquor, prohibited substances, a couple of big tubes of personal lubricant, and a few ugly-looking flexible tubes. The downloaded video clearly showed my soon-to-be ex-wife happily serving all 5 of the goons and Goliath in a big show. She openly stated how much she loved the wild eroticism and how much she was looking forward to having sex with Goliath once he won the contest, and they had her husband under control. Bob might have overstepped, but he let me watch the video at the station. Of course, I had my own copy by that point, which I could watch later. Being early morning hours on a Sunday, he had enough evidence to keep Stacy, Goliath, and all 5 goons in jail until arraignment on Monday. I told Bob to let Hal and me know if he needed us. I'll be as far away as my cell phone, and promptly ignored his orders and left town. Sunday morning, I paid for 2 fairly inexpensive round-trip flights to Las Vegas. Hal and I hit several betting venues in Sin City, collecting all of the discarded sports betting receipts we could find on the floor and in trash cans. I was amazed at how many games were held every Sunday, even though I wouldn't need it all. We didn't stop until we had close to $40,000 worth. Once Stacy realized I was really divorcing her, I felt certain that she would come after the money, at least on a 50-50 shared basis. I wasn't going to give the witch a penny if I could help it. I wanted to claim I'd lost most of it. Hal and I had a wild time. We took a taxi to no less than 4 strip clubs the first night and posed for photos with the club in the background. We concocted a story about how we each took a few thousand and spread it around to the hard-working girls. We'd say we wanted to give it to honest working women, not a cheating witch like Stacy. Fishing a couple of liquor bottles out of the trash, we half-filled them with soda and water, posing for pictures of our drunk and fun time, leering at the camera, waving our bottles in some photos, and in others with what looked like mixed drinks. According to our photos, we had a wild time in Vegas. We even gave a little money to a group collecting for a children's cancer hospital. We arrived home wearing the sweatshirts we got for donating over $100 each. Of course, we claimed we gave them $1,000 apiece. Monday, my cell phone erupted with what seemed like dozens of calls. None of the numbers looked familiar, so I ignored them. I suspected 1 or 2 might belong to Stacy's parents if she called them for help. One text said, "I told you to stay close. Now answer your phone or call me back. I'm going to kick both your butts. Bob." We called him back. He'd used his wife's phone, so there was no official record of his call. We told him we were blowing off steam, and he told us to get our butts home. Bob chewed us out officially upon our return Monday evening as he escorted us into the district attorney's office. We claimed nobody told us we had to stay in town, just close, and we interpreted that to mean the continental U.S. since our last trip away from home was to Asia. After all, we weren't under arrest, and we said we could be reached by phone. Neither Bob nor the district attorney were happy with our explanation. The DA wanted to review my version of events, so once again, I told the story. Of course, my version fit exactly with what the audio recording said. I'd listened to the whole recording on the way back from Vegas, and I was more determined than ever that, no matter what criminal charges might be levied, Stacy was history. I visited the first attorney who could see me on short notice. My dad had told me who to call after he chewed me out for running off to Vegas. Bob had called him a few times looking for me. I planned to divorce Stacy and wanted her served as soon as possible. Mr. Price advised that the simple divorce I wanted would cost in the neighborhood of $2,000, but divorce was the least of my worries at this point. Of course, I openly discussed the whole sordid event and confessed that I went a little nuts, spending, gambling, or giving away virtually all the money I'd won in the arm wrestling competition. He laughed and told me that due to the nature of the events, I might not have to share that money with Stacy anyway, but since I didn't have it, it wasn't a problem. Price shook his head. "You've read too many stories. You spent way too much effort too soon. Divorce is not the issue here, nor is hiding the money. When your house is on fire, you don't call the guy who does remodeling. You put the fire out first. Then you worry about insurance and, way down the road, fixing the damage. You have your wife and 6 guys facing charges of multiple felonies, including assault, wrongful imprisonment, conspiracy, plus whatever else the DA throws at them. The men are also charged with attempted human trafficking. Slavery is a major offense. Your divorce is not worth more concern than a pimple on your butt right now. Give it a couple of days, and we will handle it all. I'll walk you through it." Tuesday morning, I went apartment hunting. I located a decent, affordable unit near my place of employment. I didn't even have to put down a deposit on the apartment. My parents would have gladly taken me in, but I'm too independent to return home now, and I sure couldn't stay in the same house as Stacy. By that point, everybody in our little town knew parts of what had happened, and rumors abounded. Normally, rumors are worse than the truth, but this time they were far more tame. According to rumors, Stacy had an affair with her boss, who came to my house to threaten to kick my butt. I held a gun on him long enough to call the police. Once released from jail, Stacy refused to move back in with her parents, so I moved out to avoid confrontation with her new boyfriend. I thought it best not to clarify what really happened just yet, following the advice of my lawyer. I held off on releasing my audio recordings. Not even the 7 charged individuals knew all the evidence against them. Wednesday morning, I began receiving a new set of phone calls from unknown numbers. Once again, I ignored them after finding the first 3 were from curious friends trying to get the scoop on what happened. The 4th was from a Gloria Jenkins. A text from the same number read, "Mr. Bostic, I am Gloria Jenkins, wife of Gerald Jenkins. Will you please call me and tell me what is going on?" I found it very curious that Goliath's wife had no idea what had happened. She answered on the first ring. "Mr. Bostic, thank you for returning my call. All Gerald will say is that this is all a big misunderstanding. You are making allegations, but there is no proof of any wrongdoing. That alone told me there was indeed something to it. Can we meet in person?" I had taken the week off from work, so I drove over to Kensington to meet her. I took Hal's handy-dandy recording pen along, just in case. I was amazed at the woman waiting for me who identified herself as Gloria as soon as I walked in the door of the cafe. She was beautiful and did not need the light makeup she wore to stand out in a crowd. She smiled brightly as she shook my hand. Gloria was a slim blonde who appeared to be in her late 20s. Later, I'd find she was actually a few years older than me at 28. After only a few seconds of conversation, her initial easygoing public demeanor couldn't quite hide her anxiety, but I told myself to be careful. I couldn't yet tell if she was a victim or one of the enemy. She was, after all, married to Goliath and might support him no matter what. I asked her what she wanted to know. She told me the unvarnished truth. All she had been able to gather was that her husband and 5 of his friends had been arrested after an altercation at my home where I held them at gunpoint. I alleged they had done something with my wife, but Jerry claimed it was totally unfounded and being fed a line. "Mr. Bostic, I don't like it. I've talked with the other wives, and they're being kept in the dark as well. We'd like to know what is going on. Jerry is, well, Jerry, and that is a problem I'll have to deal with on my own. Will you please enlighten me?" I knew this woman could easily charm me into whatever she wanted. She just had that way about her. Sure, I was going to make sure you and the 5 goons' wives and girlfriends were fully informed anyway. "Goons?" she asked. "Yeah, Goliath's 5 muscle-bound friends who did their best to try to intimidate me until I pulled a pistol on them. I'll tell you what, why don't you call me Army? It's my nickname. Also, let's just invite those 3 women over to join us. They can listen to what I have to say firsthand and then ask questions as well, rather than just relying on the audio recording." Gloria asked how I knew who the women were, and I noted that she was recording the conversation. 3 well-dressed women in their mid to late 20s sat in a booth across the cafe. They didn't seem to be actively engaged in conversation with each other, and occasionally one of them would glance in our direction. They had been watching us since I walked in while trying very hard not to appear to be doing so. One of them put her little purse on top of the table and moved it a bit. Normally, a woman would put it down by her side. I waved to the 3 women sitting on the other side of the cafe and beckoned them over. "You're very observant, Mr. Army," Gloria said as the 3 women approached sheepishly. "He figured out who you were. He was going to tell us everything anyway," Gloria added after introductions. One of the women asked tentatively, "Is it as bad as we imagine?" "Maybe not for you," I replied, "but for me, it is the end of my marriage." In a nutshell, Goliath, Jerry, has been trying to seduce my wife for some time now. He succeeded in everything but actual intercourse. He and his 5 buddies all got a reward from my wife on Saturday and planned to complete their plan with an intimate fest, then blackmail her into being available to them from now on. I watched their facial expressions change from disbelief to anger and back to incredulity. Mutters of curses abounded. "No damn wonder one of the cops kept them so long," one of the women said. "They got out this morning and have all been meeting with their lawyer," Gloria said. "I take it you have proof?" "Even though from the limited messages we've received, the boys say you do not." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a flash drive. I have a few hours of audio recording. It's pretty incriminating. There are a couple of hours of junk in the middle, but let me give you a brief version, and then you can listen to the full recording later. When I finished, one of the women said, "Damn, I can't believe how stupid your wife is. Oral sex is not sex, and it's not cheating." Indeed. And to make a video of herself knowing it was going to be sent to strangers. She paused for a moment, shaking her head. And to think it's okay to cheat and rub your nose in it as long as you're drugged and don't remember it afterward? I nodded, as did the other three women. I thought it curious they didn't seem surprised by their husband's actions. "I'm not surprised," said one of the women. "My husband is egotistical and self-centered. My mom told me he was going to pull something like this. She said he'd eventually cheat. When we heard something had happened involving a raid, a husband with a gun, we all suspected it was something like this. Well, not exactly like this. This is beyond anything we imagined." Gloria asked if we could all go to her office where we could listen to the recording. She explained she was in the investments business, and her office was nearby. They listened to the recording, fast-forwarding through most of the arm wrestling competition. By the end, they were all almost as angry as I was. "Teach me how to give it to him in the butt," one of them said. "I want to see if those scum suckers will ever try to do it again. I'll bite it off." Then she grinned and laughed. "Hey, I could use that tape in my defense if I do. He says I don't know what I'm doing, so he knew the risk." The others laughed, and all four of the women made short phone calls. None of the calls lasted more than a minute. "Let me give you some background," Gloria said. "Jerry and the other five have been buddies since high school through college. Their lives centered around bodybuilding. In college, they were like frat boys, well, attitude-wise. They chased girls, but they were so driven by bodybuilding that they didn't party much. They didn't drink much, nor did they do drugs. Yeah, they were good-looking, stuck-up guys, but they were disciplined and charming. They bedded as many girls as they could. I know we're just as stupid, but we figured the chasing ended with us. We girls met and socialized because of them. The guys were tight. To be honest, they're closer to each other than to us wives. That's one of the biggest reasons none of us have kids. We're all financially successful, but our marriages? Not so much. We girls just lucked out. We get along so well. We are satellites around our husband's bromance." "I got to know Army," Gloria said quietly when the others said their goodbyes and left, promising to talk later. "I know you're an ex-Marine. Jerry called you a dumb jarhead, but you obviously are anything but dumb. You don't have much education, but you talk well. You have the brain power to immediately suss out their plan and then counter it. Yet you work as a laborer at a very low-income job. Why work so far below your potential?" I shrugged. I tried to explain how after I returned home from serving in the military, I wanted to be close to my parents. She asked, are they invalids, or have some physical or emotional reason they needed constant help? I shook my head. Actually, both my parents chewed me out for my decision to stay in the little town. They pointed out that they didn't need me living right there, almost in their backyard. I could live anywhere within 100 miles and consider it close, but I just got complacent. It was home, and I was reluctant to leave again. I was in the same boat as my brother. My brother was a senior police officer, yet Hal worked at a low-income, low-stress job. "You heard me say there was little to do when I was overseas," I said. "We didn't just arm wrestle all the time. I read a lot, everything I could get my hands on. I particularly liked mystery stories and tried to look for plot holes, second-guess the characters. I guess it kept my brain from vegetating." Gloria laughed. I liked that laugh. I liked it a little too much and immediately felt guilty. My marriage was over, but I was still married, and so was this charming woman sitting with me. My face got hot, and I quickly made an excuse to leave. I told Gloria she could call me anytime. I wasn't about to admit just how much I looked forward to it. Stacy chased me down quickly after the first 24 phone calls, texts, and voicemails pleading to talk to me and clear up our misunderstanding so we could save our marriage. I relented. "All right, Stacy, what makes you think there is a misunderstanding and that there's a chance in hell of saving our marriage?" I asked when I saw her. She gave me a deer-in-the-headlights look. "You made it clear several times Saturday night that you didn't think your actions were a problem," I continued. "According to you, flirting, making out, and letting another man touch you intimately while you fondled him was not a problem. Even what you did with a man and 5 of his friends was not cheating. You were happy to go further as long as I was unaware. Stacy began to babble, repeating that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she just got caught up in the excitement when a hot man like Goliath showed interest. So when the next hot man comes along, you might get caught up again, huh? I asked sarcastically. And you were perfectly happy to rub my nose in it while you had sex with the guy right in front of me, knowing how much it would hurt me, ridicule me, cut me to my face, laugh, and tell your new lover how you wanted him to show me who the better man is? Then wipe my memory, and everything would be fine? No harm, no foul, right? I was surprised I didn't raise my voice. I didn't feel anger. What I felt was indignation. Stacy ran through her list of arguments and finally admitted she had been wrong. But I want you, Army. I want to have your babies. It was just some fun, and I'll admit I took a terrible risk. I thought that if you didn't know, it would be fine. I thought you'd never know. Well, yeah, you'd know that night, but you'd lose all memory of it, so it would be like it never happened. Except you would know. You'd remember and always have it in the back of your mind. In the future, we'd have a disagreement, and you'd think, I got over on you that one time. I gritted my teeth. Stacy looked shocked. But what about counseling? She asked. I talked to a couple of girlfriends, and they suggested that. I interrupted. I asked her if she wanted her own copy of what she and the others said Saturday night. I suggested if she really thought what she said was acceptable, she should listen to that tape. After she did, I talked with her again. I wasn't about to agree to seriously consider counseling because there was no amount of counseling that could fix us, no amount of forgiveness. I just didn't have it in me. But if she really thought her actions weren't that bad, I wanted to hear her try to justify it to a third party. I'd like to see what that counselor would have to say. The following Saturday, Gloria invited me to a dinner party at her house. She and the other 3 wives, plus the girlfriends of the 2 single guys, wanted to meet. I wanted to see Gloria, but I wasn't completely trusting. I feared Jerry might show up with 1 or more of his goon squad, so I carried a small pistol in my belt under my shirt. I'm thrilled to see you tonight, Army. I was hoping you'd trust me enough to come, she said warmly. If the situation was reversed, I'm not sure I'd have the courage, she added. I'd suspect an ambush. Then she grinned. You were smart enough to not be blindly trusting, aren't you? I'm guessing if I frisk you, I'd find you're carrying. My blush exposed me. She grinned. Smart. But I assure you, you have nothing to worry about. The women talked about their husbands' feeble attempts at excuses. None of them seemed that upset about divorcing. Either they really were thinking of it as breaking up with another woman, or they were exceptional actors. They seemed mostly worried about the financial costs. We made it clear it will cost them dearly, one said. We're going to go for half of whatever they have now, and we're not going to pay a cent toward their criminal defense. My husband tried to downplay the charges against him, saying it was no big deal. I began quoting parts of the conversations you recorded, and he about peed his pants, one said. He didn't know you had recorded most of the evening. He didn't think it was a problem, as his lawyer would get all the evidence sooner or later. You aren't upset I told them you recorded them, are you? She asked. I shook my head. No, that was perfect. My main goal was to burn them and expose them to their wives, no matter what the authorities did to them. Jerry's reaction was, a simple jarhead? Why the hell did he think to have a recording device in the first goddamn place? Gloria reported. Giggles from the others. Well, it saved me from a bad marriage. No way could I marry Andy, knowing what a scumbag he is. I need to look at the inside of the next man, not just at his body, one very cute little woman said. The other women cheered and held their glasses high in agreement. I glanced over at Gloria, who seemed to be studying me. Did you talk to your wife, or I assumed soon-to-be ex-wife, Army? Asked one of the women I admitted I had, as I was curious what kind of explanation she might give me. Well, let's hear what she said. I know you recorded it. Hell, every one of us took a page out of your book and recorded what our cheating husbands had to offer as an explanation. We compared notes. The boys are circling the wagons, but they don't stand a chance. What the law doesn't do to them, we will. My dear husband might lose his veterinary license. He has a hearing this week for misuse of anesthetic drugs. I played the recording. Damn, that woman is delusional. She seriously did not think what she did was all that wrong. She is just upset you found out, or rather, you remember. She admitted to being a witch, but thinks you have a future and acts like she seriously wants one with you, Gloria said. Stacy loved me. Well, if that's love, I'd hate to see what she does if she hated you. Oh, she loves you. She wants her babies and wants to stay married, Gloria said. You can hear that in her voice. She just wants to have a little sex on the side. She doesn't understand that love is not enough to make a marriage work. There are several other things you have to have as well. Gloria looked at me intently, but did not elaborate. I waited until midweek to call Gloria, ostensibly to see how she was doing. I was surprised to see she seemed genuinely pleased to hear from me. We talked and decided to get together the following weekend. I want you to know I was very happy you called, Army, she said when we got together. I was reluctant to call you as much as I wanted to, but now I was the one surprised. I hope you weren't trusting me this time, Gloria said, then blushed as she grinned and continued. Maybe I ought to frisk you to see, and it won't be your waistband I'll be feeling. I stared at her, open-mouthed. Oh, hell, we're not children. I think we both feel the connection, she said. Of course, we met under the absolutely wrong conditions. I'm sure you've wondered what kind of shallow witch I am to fall for a guy like Jerry. I opened my mouth to protest, but said nothing as she continued. I was in love with the idea of being in love. I let my hormones do my thinking. Jerry was smart, fairly nice-looking, and he had the physique that made every woman and most men admire him. It fed my ego to imagine them envying me, being the one to win him. One woman who did not envy me was my mom. She warned me he would break my heart. She said he was as shallow as a toddler's kiddie pool. Of course, I didn't listen and didn't realize she was right until it was too late, and I got married. But I'm not a quitter, either. Gloria grinned sheepishly. It is one time I should have quit, though. I can understand why your wife listened to him. The man could be a great coach or a salesman. Running the gym, he would praise clients, telling them how he saw improvement and encouraging them to work harder. He'd suggest changes to their routine. People love that. I'd never seen him try to seduce another woman before. I'm not sure he ever cheated on me. And of course, he denies he ever did. Gloria explained. My mom apologized for her feelings, but said she wasn't too upset to hear what happened and our marriage is over. It was just a matter of time until he stepped out on me, she said. At least I didn't have any kids with the scumbag. I'm not sure what Jerry saw in me, either, she said and blushed. To me, it was obvious. She was super intelligent, seemingly compassionate, and sexy as hell. I'm pushy to the point of being bossy. I'm driven and want to do my best, and I want others around me to do their best. It was the way I was raised. Don't confuse that to mean I seek a big income. My dad makes a relatively modest income as a mid-level manager where he works. Mom manages a small boutique. Both thoroughly enjoy their jobs. They raised 2 daughters, and we always had lots of what we called quality time together. Dad once said his definition of success was to have a happy, close-knit family with well-rounded kids. Both my parents pushed my sister and me to try new things. We took dance classes, and I studied the piano while my sister played the guitar. We even took karate lessons for a while. We were encouraged to at least try to play a few sports like soccer and volleyball. The idea was to try everything and see what we liked. Dad was careful not to say too much when I called them with the news about Jerry. I'm sure my mom spoke for both when we discussed it several times over the past few days, Gloria said. She even had a few things to say about you. Me? I said, surprised. I never met the woman. Yeah, but I told her all about you. You are an integral part of the story, Gloria said that I asked what her mother had said. Most of it is between my mom and me. Maybe I'll tell you someday. But she analyzed you and your wife the same way I did, Gloria said. I asked her what they came up with. Stacy loves you, but does not respect you. We both agree with that, Gloria said. I nodded in agreement. Stacy did not respect me at all, but I wondered if she loved me at all. Oh, she loves you. She wants your kids, Gloria continued. She went to great, even extraordinary efforts to keep your marriage intact. If she simply wanted to cheat, she would have done so and not cared if you found out. She'd probably have tried to hide it for a while and then just said it was too much effort and eventually left you. Gloria stopped to look me in the eye for a few seconds. I had the impression she was trying to read my mind as she continued. No, she loves you and wants your kids, but part of her thinks you are not good enough for her. She wants an edge over you. You said it yourself the other day. She'd always know in the back of her mind she got one over on you. When you got into an argument, she'd think of that and know she won. That part of the tape where she and Jerry talked about humiliating you after they had sex. That's disrespect on an all-new level. It pisses me off. I laughed. It didn't exactly make me happy, either. Gloria surprised me when her eyes filled with tears. You don't understand, she said. It infuriates me. I want to rip that witch's hair out by the roots for what she planned to do to you. She might not respect you, but I do. Gloria took a few breaths as she held up her hand for me to be quiet. I've got to say this, she said. I respect you. I did from the first minute we met in that cafe. You have the balls to meet the wife of the man that destroyed your marriage, and you carried yourself with such bearing. You treated me with kindness, with respect. I liked it. I liked you. Please don't say a word and let me finish, Gloria implored. Something about you reminds me of my dad. They say that, for good or bad, girls marry men like their father, and men marry women like their mothers. I don't know if that's true. It sure as hell isn't with Jerry, but I see some of Dad's characteristics in you. Subtle, but they're there. I told you my mom said a few things to me that I wasn't going to tell you, Gloria said in almost a whisper. She could barely meet my eyes, but at the same time was trying to gauge my reaction. She could tell I was attracted to you. More than that. After a couple of times we talked, she told me to be careful not to fall in love with you, as it could lead to disaster. Then she corrected herself and told me to go slow, as we both needed time to take care of business and heal a bit before we looked to the future. But I'm busting a gut here. She looked at me. I've got to know, do you like me? I hesitated. I can honestly say I felt a great deal of guilt over my feelings for you. I admitted. She looked at me, shocked and dismayed, with maybe more than a little embarrassment mixed in. Something about you made me want to grab you, and well, I wasn't sure what I wanted, but when I thought about it, I wondered if it was to have sex with you just to rub Jerry's nose in it, like he did to me. I had the impression I could do it if I tried. I paused, unsure whether to continue, but then realized I didn't care what Jerry thought. I wanted you, and that made me feel guilty on a different level. I was married. Yes, in a toxic marriage, but married nonetheless. It goes against the grain. I'd be violating my own sense of ethics. I paused and hoped my eyes weren't going to tear up. But to answer your question, yes, I like you. No, I love you. I used to tell people Stacy and I were like two peas in a pod. We shared common interests. We just fit well. We shared the same interests, but you and I don't share the same interests. At least we never discussed what we wanted, but I see in you something I've wanted, something I need. Yeah, I like you, and I am attracted to you, but it scares the hell out of me. I don't want this to be some rebound thing. I want it to be real. Great, Gloria declared. Now, like I still want to do, I can take my time and see how we really do fit. We both began to laugh. Gloria smiled at me for a few moments, then said, So if we were going to go slow so we don't screw things up, can we at least kiss? I nodded, unable to say what I was really thinking. She quickly shifted over and sat in my lap with a smile. She brought her face close to mine, and when her lips touched mine, she shuddered. Or maybe it was me who shuddered. But when we came up for air, she had a grin on her face. I'm going to own you. I'm like one of those old gold prospectors. I'm staking my claim, she said. Oh, and when the gold plays out, move on. I quipped before I thought she might take it the wrong way. She didn't. See, I knew you had a wit, jarhead, she giggled. Nope, I'm going to reinvest every ounce of gold I find and see my dream come true. But like any business, I'm not going to overextend myself, and God knows I want to overextend. I want a relationship built on love and not just lust. Respect has to be a cornerstone, and we're going to have to meet in the middle because I'm a pushy woman who knows what she wants out of life, just like my mom. Over the next several days, I thought about what Gloria had said. To be honest, I thought about little else. I knew I was rebounding from Stacy, but at the same time, I realized this was different. I agreed with what Gloria had said. Stacy loved me, but didn't respect me. Was I really that much of a bum? Whatever. She loved me, but wanted a better man. I wasn't good enough, and that bothered me. Gloria openly declared she respected me. I somehow reminded her of her father, who I had not yet met. She professed her growing love. I knew I was more than attracted to the woman, which scared me as it made me feel guilty at the same time. I examined my initial impulse of wanting to have sex with Gloria just to show Jerry I could take his woman. I wanted to hurt him the way he had hurt me. I could do that to Jerry without a second's hesitation, but the thought of hurting Gloria was inconceivable. That thought made me feel like the guilt was overwhelming. Mr. Price did file my divorce paperwork, which immediately separated my finances from Stacy's. She had no job since she was afraid to go back to the gym. She did get half of our meager savings, which basically allowed her to eat and put gas in her car. The need to get legal representation required her to call her parents for help, which meant she had to confess we were separated and the reason why. As expected, she did not divulge the full circumstances. Her father called me to chew me out for being an a-hole. Now, I understand your feelings were hurt. She flirted and even went too far with her boss, but she did not actually cheat. Don't you think you should at least try counseling? I asked him what she had told him, and it turned out she skipped over the whole sex issue. She confessed she had flirted with Jerry and admitted to acting around at the competition to work the arm wrestlers into a frenzy. She said she might have had to have sex with Jerry if he won, but I won instead. I was upset and left her. Jerry and his friends came to the house to try to talk me down, and I held them at gunpoint when they got over-aggressive. Yeah, that is obviously over the top, but you guys have been married for a few years. Don't you think that's worth salvaging, or at least trying? I told him I'd send him a copy of the audio recording of the evening's events, and he could decide for himself if he wanted to try to salvage the marriage. I mailed him a flash drive. 3 days later, he called me back to say he was sorry. He understood and would still have to help his daughter try to stay out of jail. By the end of the second week, all parties knew full well I had full audio recordings and would give them out. The two veterinarians were sanctioned and put on probation pending the outcome of their criminal trial. They could technically work but could not touch any anesthetic, which made their jobs almost impossible. Every female at the gym was told in detail what Jerry had attempted with Stacy. Stokes Fitness fired Jerry to avoid a full walkout because they did not have a formal policy against fraternization. I could not sue the company itself, something I had not thought of, but my attorney had. It took 6 months before the actual criminal trial for the 7 culprits took place. I thought that was a long time, but I was informed it was extraordinarily quick. The local news media had gotten wind of the case because the 6 men were prominent in local business. It garnered even more attention than the typical quick report and forget it news story. They kept the public informed by offering periodic updates. Somebody kept calling the stations to ask if they had any updates. I have no idea who that might have been. As you might expect, lawyers tried to suppress the audio recordings, which were the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. My own testimony would have been challenged as the rantings of a wronged husband. The 6 guys even tried to press charges against me for holding them at gunpoint. That was laughed out of the DA's office. The consensus was my actions were righteous. The 6 men underestimated Stacy. They knew she was a dumb bimbo, but they didn't realize she would turn into a vindictive bimbo. She was upset that her marriage had been destroyed. Once her parents realized the men's plan to essentially make her their sex slave, they pushed her to testify for the prosecution. In her confession, she had agreed with their plan to forcibly drug me in an attempt to wipe my memory. That earned her a 2-year sentence with 18 months of it suspended. She detailed how the men had planned their assault on me during their drive from Kensington after the competition. They used their cell phones to talk it over between the 3 cars in a conference call. Of course, she didn't know what they planned for her, but what they discussed in front of her was enough to bury their butts. I would have liked to see them go to jail for longer as the case progressed, but to tell the truth, at the beginning, I would have been satisfied just watching the wives and girlfriends attack from within. When I called the police, my primary goal was to mess up their relationships as much as they had messed up mine. I had to admit to Hal and a few of my friends that I had traded up. After that first time Gloria had opened up and told me she was staking her claim on me, I spent as much time as possible with her. She was a tough taskmaster, though. I'd had gunnery sergeants in the Corps who were more easygoing. Of course, none of those gunnies were as pretty or kissed as sweetly. Gloria made it clear I was doing myself an injustice. The very next semester, at her insistence, I enrolled in the local junior college. Hal decided if I could do it, so would he. Hal studied criminal justice, and I took general studies, which morphed into an interest in business. Both of us did very well, and by the time the criminal trial hit the docket, we had completed a whole semester with surprisingly good grades. Gloria lined Hal up with one of her girlfriends, Marie. I knew Marie as Goon Number 3's ex. Like the other wives and girlfriends, she was a spectacular specimen of womanhood. Don't tell Marie any damn stories about Korea, Army, Hal had told me once. Remember, I carry a gun, and she's almost worth shooting my best friend, he added with a grin. Hal did not need to wait until his divorce was final. I did. Gloria told me she would accept having sex with a married man the week after her divorce was final, but I would not. She even told her mother when we went over to their house to celebrate. We had still not done the deed. Her mother had laughed and kissed my cheek, telling me she was looking forward to when I did and made her a grandmother. I waited the extra week until I got my own decree before I finally took Gloria to bed. It was well worth the wait. After the first 2 days of our honeymoon, most of which we spent in bed and not on the beach in the Bahamas, she told me she had stopped all her birth control months before. I didn't need it since I wasn't having sex, and I want your baby, Calvin. That was another thing about Gloria. She would refer to me as Army when talking with my friends, but when she addressed me directly, it was Calvin or Cal. I own you, Calvin, she said several times while we dated, waiting for our divorces to finalize. On our honeymoon night, she grinned, turned around, and pulled down her clothes to display her back. Across it, it read, "Exclusive property of Calvin Bostic." Marie had helped her apply the transfer. I had wondered why Hal, my best man, had been laughing and giggling so much during the wedding ceremony and reception. Marie told me she's going to get property of Marie tattooed on my butt, he said. But if I told you about the transfer, she'd brand it so I didn't forget who was in charge. We both laughed and teased each other about our fates with such great women. Neither of us felt we were hurting a bit. One weekend, Gloria and I stopped by Higgins' restaurant for a quick snack after a visit with my parents. Gloria needed to hit the bathroom as our baby was pressing on her bladder. She waddled to the bathroom while I sat in a booth. Who should come to the table to take my order but Stacy? "Hello, Army," she said in greeting. "I did my time in jail and got my old job back here. I saw the woman you came in here with heading to the bathroom." I nodded and told her Gloria was my wife and confirmed she was expecting. "She looks familiar. She was at the trials because she used to be married to Gerald Jenkins. You knew him as Goliath. So you hooked up with her?" she asked. "Yes," I replied, "but not until our divorce was final. I don't cheat. And I not only hooked up, but Gloria and I are married. That's my baby." A different server brought our coffee. "I'll be taking over." Stacy had to step out for a while. Something seemed to upset her.